My name is Haley Morrison. I'm 23, and I still wake up at night to the sound of rusting metal. The doctors say it's post-traumatic stress disorder, phantom auditory hallucinations. But I know it's real. She reminds me of myself, my sister Emma, and that girl in the white dress we met in Riverview Park. It all started on Friday, September 13th. I was working at a coffee shop in Cleveland. My shift ended early, and I was exhausted. The phone rang around 10 o'clock. Emma. I knew right away something was wrong. Usually she texted, rarely called. But this time her voice was strange, too calm, as if she'd accepted something important. She said she needed me to come, that it was important, that it was about Mom. Mom died 5 years ago. We hardly talked about her. It was too painful. After her mother's death, Emma seemed broken inside. She dropped out of college, hung out with unsavory guys, and lived in a trailer park. I tried to get her to talk, but she was distant. Then suddenly she called and started talking about her mother. I asked where she was. She said, Riverview Park, an old, abandoned amusement park on the outskirts of town. It closed about 20 years ago after a girl died there. She fell off the vortex ride. Local legends varied, but ordinary people avoided it. But Emma went there. I tried to dissuade her, but she just kept repeating, "Come on over, I'm on the vortex." And then she hung up. I had to go. The road outside town was dark, the streetlights were out. I parked the car on the side of the road and found a hole in the fence, just like she'd described. I crawled through it and found myself on the park grounds. At night, these old buildings looked eerie. The carousels, the block-drome ride, the shooting galleries. Everything stood like black silhouettes, as if waiting. I walked along the central alley, shining a flashlight, and I kept feeling like someone was watching me from the darkness. At the end of the alley stood the whirlwind, a huge metal frame with cradles on long supports. The cradles swayed gently in the wind, although there was almost no wind. Emma was standing right under the ride. I called out to her, and she turned around. She looked calm, almost too calm. She said she hadn't had a drink for 2 weeks, that she quit to clear her head. And she led me to the control panel. The control panel smelled terribly of urine and rot. Emma shone her phone at the wall. There was an old photograph hanging there, a girl of about 10, dark hair, big eyes. She was sitting in the bassinet of the vortex, smiling. Emma said it was Emily Carter, the same one who died in '95. Then she pulled out another photograph. It was of our mother, younger, standing by the same ride, and the same little girl was sitting in the bassinet. I couldn't believe my eyes. Mom never told me she'd been there. Emma explained that she'd found the photograph among Mom's things after the funeral. The date on the back was September 12th, 1995, the day before Emily died. Mom knew this girl. Emma believed that Mom's alcoholism and eccentricities were connected to what she'd seen at the park. That it had affected her, Emma, and she needed to understand what really happened. I tried to stop her, but she was adamant. I agreed to stay until the morning. We started searching the booth. In a drawer, Emma found a school notebook, Emily's diary. We read by flashlight. The girl wrote that she often visited the park and that she had become friends with Uncle Ron, who worked on the ride. On September 10th, she wrote that she really enjoyed watching the vortex. On September 11th, she said she met a woman named Sarah with sad eyes. It was our mother. On September 12th, Sarah came again with a little girl of about 5. And on September 13th, something terrible happened. Emily was riding the vortex when the ride suddenly sped up, and she got scared. And down below, she saw Sarah with this little girl. And the girl, the page was torn out. All that remained was a scrap with the word pushed. A shudder ran through me. If this is true, then that girl was either me or Emma. I was 5 then, Emma 3. At that moment, we heard the scraping of metal outside. We froze and turned off the headlights. Someone was walking slowly across the gravel. One step, a pause, another step. They stopped right at the entrance to the kiosk. We heard heavy breathing behind the wall. A few minutes passed, then the footsteps faded. Emma decided it was Emily's ghost and went outside. I followed her, cursing. Under the vortex ride, she loudly declared that she knew the girl was there and asked to see her. Then one of the cradles rocked on its own. Then a child's voice rang out from above. "You're here." Emma asked what had happened to her. The voice replied, "I was pushed." When she asked who had pushed her, the answer came. "The girl who was with your mother. The little girl." I recoiled. The voice added that the girl had run up and pushed Emily right into the cradle, and before she could scream, she hadn't had the chance. I screamed that it wasn't me, that I didn't remember anything. The voice laughed softly and said that she really didn't remember anything. Everyone forgets. And then the ride itself began to move. The cradles began to grind and spin. We took off, barely managing to escape through a hole in the fence. The ride spun in the darkness, and children's laughter could be heard through the roar. We sat in the car all night, not daring to start the engine. Emma cried, and I stared blankly into the darkness. Toward morning, she said she remembered Mom sometimes looking at me strangely, as if she were afraid. And when she was drunk, she said she couldn't forgive herself, that she should have stopped it. I thought maybe that girl was me. At dawn, we returned to the park. During the day, it had looked ordinary, simply abandoned. Under the whirlwind, we saw small bare footprints in the dusty ground, leading to the central mast and disappearing into the distance. We took Emily's notebook from the booth. The pages, which looked like they had been torn out the night before, were now blank. But at the very end of the notebook was a note in a different handwriting, my mother's. She wrote that she returned a year later, found the diary, read it, and learned what her daughter had done. That she would remain silent because she loved her daughter, even after what she had done. And she asked Emily for forgiveness. I realized I was that girl. At 5, I pushed another child, and he fell to his death. I sat on the floor of the gondola, unable to believe my eyes. Emma hugged me, saying I was a child and didn't remember anything. And then there was another scraping sound. We went outside. Emily was standing under the ride, little, in a white dress covered in dust, barefoot. Her eyes were black, without whites. She said we knew the truth. I admitted it was me, but she shook her head. "No, not you. Someone else." And she explained that Sarah had come with 2 girls. The older one was sitting on a bench, and the younger one ran up and pushed her. The younger one smiled as she pushed. I turned to Emma. She was 3 years old. She stood there, white as a sheet, insisting she didn't remember anything. Emily said that little children forget, but Emily, always remembers. And she was waiting for Emma to return so she could remember and understand what she had done. Emma fell to her knees, begging for forgiveness. Emily replied that she too had been a child, but she had died. And now Emma must stay here with her forever. I grabbed my sister's hand and pulled her away. The ride spun again, the cradles whistled through the air, and Emily's laughter echoed everywhere. We reached the fence. I pushed Emma through the hole and climbed out myself. Turning around, I saw the vortex still spinning, and beneath it, a small figure in white stood looking at us. We got in the car and drove away. Emma was silent the entire way. At home, she locked herself in her room and didn't come out for days. I called the doctor, and she was admitted to a psychiatric hospital. The diagnosis was acute psychotic disorder caused by stress. She didn't say a word about what happened. She just sat and stared into space. A month later, she was discharged. She had become different. Calm, quiet. Sometimes at night, I hear her walking around the room. And sometimes she comes to my door and stands there for a very, very long time. I don't ask what she needs. I'm afraid to hear the answer. 6 months later, Riverview Park was torn down. A shopping center was built in its place. But I know it doesn't matter. Emily isn't there. She is where her death is. And her death is now connected to us. Emma still doesn't remember that day. Or pretends not to remember. I don't know. Sometimes I think I see the same black glint in her eyes as Emily's. Then I look away. And I still hear the sound of rusting metal, especially at night. The doctors say it's a phantom. But I know, it's a reminder that some things can't be fixed, that some secrets are better left buried, and that the sister you love can be a monster without even knowing it.